Thank you, Fred. As he said, we are co-editors of the Journal of Presbyterian History. There have been times, however, when we have turned down an article and gotten a nasty reply when I think that people would prefer to think of us as unindicted co-conspirators. Despite those few occasions where we've had to deal with issues like that, the last 15 years have been a great pleasure. In late 1861, Julia Ward Howe, author and literary figure, visited Washington, D.C. with her husband. Together, they were helping supervise, on behalf of a charitable organization called the U.S. Sanitary Commission, the distribution of supplies to soldiers in regiments from Massachusetts. After a day of being among the troops stationed in the area, she and her husband returned to the city, singing various songs as they went. They concluded their singing with a tune very popular with the soldiers, John Brown's Body. A clergyman traveling with the Howes challenged her, "Mrs. Howe, why do you not write some good words for that stirring tune?" Back at their hotel, the Howes turned in after a fatiguing day. In her reminiscences, some years later, Julia Ward Howe recalled, "I went to bed that night as usual and slept quite soundly. I awoke in the gray of the morning twilight, and as I lay waiting for the dawn, the long lines of the desired poem began to twine themselves in my mind. Having thought out all the stanzas, I said to myself, I must get up and write these verses down, lest I fall asleep again and forget them." That's a reminder to keep a pencil and a pad by the bedside, I guess. "So with a sudden effort, I sprang out of bed and found in the dimness an old stump of a pen which I remembered to have used the day before." The poem, written in the morning twilight, was published in February of 1862. By the end of the war, sung to the tune of John Brown's Body, it became one of the most popular songs among the Northern soldiers. The song established Mrs. Howe's fame more than anything else she had done previously. We know the song, of course, as the Battle Hymn of the Republic. And its lyrics come readily to mind for many of us. "Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. He hath loosed the fateful lightning of his terrible swift sword. His truth is marching on." And then in the second verse, Howe specified further where she discerned the glory of the Lord's coming. "I have seen him in the watchfires of 100 circling camps. They have builded him an altar in the evening dews and damps. I can read his righteous sentence by the dim and flaring lamps. His day is marching on." And then the first line of the third verse, "I have read a fiery gospel writ in burnished rows of steel." The popularity of the Battle Hymn of the Republic is a graphic symbol of the way in which religious symbols and a vision of the coming day of the Lord shaped the minds of people at home and of the soldiers who fought. It is also I was going to say tribute, that may not be the right word, an example would be better, of the way in which, in time of war, highly militaristic imagery is infused with religious meaning. While the Battle Hymn was a northern song, Southern troops and civilians often had similar visions of themselves going forth to righteous war and sang other songs. The churches had a lot to do with this. When the men in blue and the men in gray marched off to fight each other in 1861, they carried more than rifles and knapsacks. They took the blessing of ministers and other Christian leaders with them. Now, I would not have you think that there are no exceptions to this. The historic peace churches, what we would think of as pacifist churches, did not endorse participation in the conflict, and there were disaffected elements in each section of the divided country voicing dissent. There was is this a problem? Is that any echo? A little bit? No, okay, thank you. This was particularly a problem, of course, in the border areas, places like Kentucky, which was one of and Missouri, which were some of the most contentious places, because there you had Unionist and Confederate sympathizers side by side, and churchmen who sympathized both ways. But on the whole, the clergy of the North and the South found in the Scriptures grounds for ardent support for their respective causes, and they preached that message unabashedly. Given the fact that America in the mid-19th century was a culture drenched in the images of the Bible, the ministers' ability to justify war in the name of the Bible did much to mobilize popular support, and to maintain that loyalty until bullets and disease had claimed more than 623,000 lives. The terrible swift sword of which Howe wrote indeed cut deep, and it drew much blood. No other war in U.S. history comes even close to having killed so many of the nation's soldiers. If one were to add up the American dead of the Revolution, the War of 1812, the Mexican War, the Spanish-American War, World War I, World War II, and the Korean conflict, then one gets a total roughly the same as the number of soldiers who died in the Civil War. To put it in another way, which always gets me when I think of it, if the same proportion of the total American population today were killed in a war, we would be talking about something on the order of 6 million dead. So, how did the churches of the respective sections justify what turned out to be a fratricidal killing match? First, a little bit of background. When Lincoln was elected in November of 1860, the first Republican president, actually only on the second time out for the party, they had only fielded a candidate in 1856, the first time. When Lincoln was initially was elected in 1860, many Northern ministers initially advised caution. Now, Lincoln had run on a platform of the non-extension of slavery. That is to say, that he was saying, we will not try to interfere with the institution where it exists. But we will, however, stand like flint against expanding it into new territory. That was deemed an invasion of Southern rights by many in Dixie. And beginning then with South Carolina on December 20 of 1860, a parade of states in the Deep South went out in secession. Then, well, I won't get to that. I'll hold that for a second. Now, how was the federal government to respond to this? How were the churches to respond to it? Bear in mind that presidential transitions were much longer in those days. Now we're used to a president being elected, what is it, on the first Tuesday after the first Monday in November, and then he takes, so far only he's, take office on January 20. It was March 4 at this time.